Thank you so much, Natalie, for joining me today. I'm so excited to hear from you because it's a beautiful book that you've sent me, and I really appreciate it. So, quick introduction, which is Natalie Farrell is a fitness aficionado, tea-loving soul revolutionist. At the age of 33, after spending 15 years of her life as a singer and vocal coach, she quit her job and headed to California to study yoga and find answers to questions about life. She now shares these learnings as a writer, podcaster, radio presenter, and intuitive coach. Light the Way is her new book, looking at healing the soul. So I have to ask you, how do you define soul?
What a great question to start off with. And it's amazing to be here with you. I'm just going to close my eyes to think about it, because this is a question I've never been asked before. Out loud in this way, but it's the essence of us all. It's so we talk about mind, body, spirit quite a lot, or we have in the past, and I feel like the soul is people are starting to connect more with their soul and their soul's purpose. So it really is like the yearning of our heart, filled with everything that I believe we were born to be and express in the world. It's a lot about connection as well. So how we connect to ourselves, how we perceive ourselves. It's like our inner guidance system.
And actually, do you believe like spirituality is different for everyone? And like, why do you think that's the case?
Yes, I believe it is different for everybody. There'll be various reasons why. It depends, obviously, how you're brought up, the traditions that you may have been born into, to obviously, like you said, at 33, I went and studied yoga to find myself. We hear that a lot, don't we? People finding themselves. But there is that point, where we realize, some of your listeners may have gone through this, that there is more to life than the traditional. I describe it as like a roundabout process, where we're on the same conveyor belt. And so, I think spirituality does have a different thread for a lot of us. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. Like I've always like had a really kind of sort of peripheral view of spirituality, because I came from quite a spiritual family, obviously like growing up Hindu, but I was, and that when I was growing up, I really sort of believed in a lot of these kind of teachings. I was quite into the Vedas, and I read a lot of the scriptures from across all the different religions, but there was something just really untenable about it. So I've reduced it down to now I like nature and I'm a small speck in the universe. So that's as much as I've gotten.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it's just, you've made your own interpretation of it. And I think we can all do that. I am less of a follower of a specific teaching regime. I actually really love self-discovery. And for me, it is so much more going into the soul awakening rather than the spiritual awakening. But I do feel that, spiritual awakening is a very important and integral part of our growth as humans.
Interesting. So would you consider there's a difference between the spirituality and the soul?
Yeah.
What is that difference then?
Yeah, there is a difference. Maybe it's my interpretation of it, speaking this out loud, is that to me, again, as I said at the beginning, soul does feel more, as I describe in the book, it's something that we choose the soul, or the soul chooses the body, chooses to come in this lifetime, and express itself. And we tend to forget about our soul. We tend to forget about our needs. I definitely see it as much more of an integral, it's a part of us. I talk also about intuition a lot. I talk a lot about the wise woman. So connecting in with that intuition. And I feel they're quite deep rooted together, the soul and the wise woman, and being able to, using that word express ourselves as individuals. And I suppose that's why I've kind of gone a little bit more into that the soul work, rather than the spirituality, because it just feels more right to me. It definitely feels, it definitely feels more like that's what I was born to chat about, and to help people to reconnect much more into their own, like you have. I love what you're saying, connecting with nature and a speck. We are all very, very we're all very important, but we also, as I also say in the book, we don't belong to ourselves. You know, we go through those spiritual lessons, learnings, like you said, the spiritual readings, the philosophers, the teachers. I think they're always reminding ourselves to return to self.
Yeah, no, so true, actually. And actually, in your own case, obviously, you had such a varied life, throughout the years, isn't it? Going from singing into spirit, sort of the yoga aspect and the soul work. And I was just wondering, like, because I find this is a real problem with me, which is, how did you find, like, how much did perfectionism cause like a barrier between like you and your soul?
I'm laughing because yes, I only announced kind of last year that I'm a recovering perfectionist. Deep breath. So great question. A lot is the answer. It's a lot. And I love this because you're right, it sets up barriers, but you're almost searching for something else. A lot of the time we're searching for external affirmation. So we want others to approve of us. We want others to tell us that we're good. And others, I kind of see it, and I'm talking a lot with my hands right now. So others and self, rather than coming to, ourselves for approval. So I think that's where the perfectionist traits come from as well. I know that you also have been a musician. So, through the singing voice, you can't change it. I mean, obviously you can improve it, but you were born with the voice, born with the instrument inside of us, Whereas if you're learning the piano, you can choose your instrument.
That's
you can go
true.
to the shop and you can choose it. So when I was teaching singing, I always used to explain this to whether it was the children or the adults, is, that you do have to love your own voice. Of course it can improve, but there was a lot of barriers and perfectionist traits, I think, that grew out of my experience of being a musician. Yeah, so lots of barriers, some self-hatred that came in the way. Also, I fell out of love with my own voice, a voice that had moved people to tears often. And the voice, as music is, I see it as a great tool for communication. And so obviously I was cutting off, kind of going back to more like the soul talk and the spiritual talk. I was cutting off from myself. You can feel the energy's gone down. It's sad, right? It's sad when we be that kind of self-deprecating.
Totally. Because you lose the whole point of, singing or music is just exactly connecting to this kind of meditative state, you could almost say. Because we're so busy trying to please the world with this gift, essentially, we kind of lose that part of ourselves, and I find that really sad.
It is totally and utterly. And again, just going back to that approval, Whereas, you know, how I'm using music and my voice a lot more now is through connection. So being the radio presenter, podcaster, as you are, even the voice in the book, you know, people are reading it and saying, you can just hear me speaking, you know, as I read through the book. And it's taken me a long time to come back round to understanding that the voice is multi-dimensional and has a lot of potential for me to express myself, not just singing but also singing, and that's really helped me to overcome the perfectionist traits. So breaking it down, understanding it on different levels, and also yeah, you know, finding other people that I can create music with or create sound with. Most recently, I've been working with a lady called Rachel Smithbone. We did a live actually on Instagram, and I started talking about toning. And let me think of the word. Yeah, so toning is how the cavemen used to communicate.
What is toning?
just through sound. So toning could be using, I explain it without singing. So just a sound like ooh, you know, that kind of toning, and we ooh, and using the voice in different ways, and you get the voice to muscly, you know, work in different ways. But in this live, we were just laughing because I was talking about taking away the words, taking away the distraction, and literally just having the tone, having the communication, the truthful communication, which I talk a lot about, speaking your truth, without the disturbance of the words and having to interpret, what did that person mean? Did they say that? Did they really mean that? Oh, does she think that about me? And again, it can drift back into that perfectionist trait, and also where we start to question ourselves, like you're saying. Yeah.
And actually, I wanted to go into this because there was a small extract where I just quickly wrote down, which is you wrote, "Finally, I woke up one day, stretched into my 27-year-old body and feeling a longing to know myself in a new way, to stop making myself sick, both literally and physically, heal my sore open wounds and put Natalie first." And so I was wondering, what was the turning point for you when you started to think about your body?
Well, I had I just getting shivers as you read that. It's lovely hearing somebody else read it out. Yeah, so abuse, actually. I was bulimic, and it's, you know, it stemmed from kind of childhood, then getting kind of its worst from 18 to 25, in terms of how I was treating my body through starvation. Basically, I was starving my body of fuel. This is why I talk a lot about soul-fueled living. I've learned a lot of lessons from this. So at 27, it was one day I woke up, enough is enough. I had no energy. I had no energy at all. I was working so much. I was working 50, 60 clients a week then. So I was teaching singing. I was singing as well at the weekend up in London. Yeah, I really was tired.
God.
And I wasn't feeding my body properly. I wasn't feeding my mind properly. And, you know, the word soul, I mean, I didn't even consider that at all. I knew nothing about that then. All I knew is that people wanted to hang around with me, but in actual fact, I was just hiding.
Interesting. So how do you show up for yourself fully now every day?
So I'm very present, and the presence has come from years and years of practice of awareness, being aware, catching myself if I'm being hard on myself, catching myself if I haven't prepared my meals for the day, for example. It's not every day, by the way, but I do like to pre-plan. I do like to think, how am I going to, I just had a conversation about this morning, actually, how am I going to feed my body to fuel it? Yoga every other day, or a lot of the time I do yoga when I'm relaxing in the evening. I get my bolster out. It's like a big cushion. Just lie on it and give my spine a rest, take weight off of the body. I love writing. So of course I've written the book, but writing really activates love inside of me. And I kind of going more into the daily process of how I work, how I create. I write lists. I have times when I cut off. And something that I'm practicing, what do I call it? It's quite fun. I think you're going to like this. So stop and drop. So I stop practicing coming out of the flow of work rather than, being at my computer for hours. Go and make a cup of tea or go out for a walk with a dog. I change up the routine, but more it's about getting out of the flow so that the body can come back into that moment of presence and awareness. And as you said, reconnection into nature, and being mindful of where I'm at. And I think that leads you closer to appreciation. And then really gives you a fresh mind, especially if you've got a bit kind of stuck in a particular bit of work or frustrated. It's funny actually talking about cooking and food, because a lot of people actually find cooking quite frustrating. You talk to certain people, it's either frustrating or they find it really relaxing.
It's Marmite.
Again, it's Marmite, yeah, but it's a practice. I don't know whether you agree with this and whether the listeners agree, but for me, I see life as a practice. There are things that we naturally love, and there are things that we have to work through. It's what I love about life.
Definitely. God, it's definitely varied, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Now I wanted to ask you, because obviously, so the idea of soul and spirituality, I don't believe in a superior being, like the way, you were saying that, you don't follow specific teachings or anything. But when you try and read, and it was interesting trying to gauge what people thought about soul and spirituality. And when I was reading, they were I've read that a spiritual person is synonymous with being a person whose highest priority is to be loving to yourself and others. Now, would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. It's kind of more of a selfless act. Yeah. Again, though, I like that. And then maybe so if we're talking the deities or goddesses and things like that, they become more of an anchor, more of a point of reference for us if we get lost. Because some people can get lost in along the way. And there's also that idea of self-discipline, isn't there, in terms of, we're just talking about self-practice and life being a practice itself. So I suppose my challenge there is what happens if you lose yourself. How do you remain connected with with the poignancy of what you associate as spirituality?
That's true. You need, as you say, an anchor, isn't it?
Like an anchor. And what was the other thing you said? It was around
being a person whose highest priority is to be loving to yourself and others.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I like it in that order.
Yeah, that's true.
I really like it in that order, because again, if we kind of go more to when people are out of love or out of sync, sync with their
Mm,
soul, out of sync, is that maybe they're putting others first, talking
mm,
about the perfectionist traits as well, putting others first, and then again they can forget that they're
yeah,
important, you know.
that's true.
Yeah.
And actually, I was just wondering because as you were saying, like it's very easy to just lose yourself, isn't it? And I was just wondering what stops us from seeing the wonders of the world.
Ah, I love that word, wonder. I use it quite a bit. So, whew, okay, I go with what comes into my head, and what's coming into my head is self-obsession. Don't
Mm,
know why. Maybe one reason. Yeah, one reason. And I have just been writing something around this concept of self-love. And it is for me, I think, when people again are looking externally for answers,
mm,
because we can forget to see, what's just in front of us. The other day I was sitting having tea in a coffee shop, and of course I could have had the experience without noticing this, but a man got his camera out and he took a picture of a bee
mm.
feeding on a flower,
Oh,
and it just was gorgeous. And this is, I mean, I talk to anyone and I love creating conversations, unless I'm in like cozy mode. I want to be by myself, but it just really made me feel happy, that he was finding that time
mm,
to respect something else, as you say, but actually picture it as well. um yeah, and I'm thinking about the word lens and how our lens can become steamed up. It
mm,
can become out of focus, and we also have um kind of a default. We have lots of defaults as humans. Yeah, for our filters, talking about kind of cameras and how we see the world, kind of our filters to become a bit blocked as well.
mm,
And we miss the wonders of the world. And I know that there's many wonders of the world, but what, I suppose that my question would be, what what do you mean by wonder? What do you find wonderful,
mm.
listeners? Because I've been to the Taj Mahal, and that is an incredible wonder of the world, or what, and a gift that that person built out of love for another.
Mm.
Yeah, I look at my cockapoo and I am in wonder and love every time I look at his face, even when he's being naughty. And I always come back in my practice to the small things.
Mm.
So we I think it's when we get out of focus with our maybe our aims and our goals, and we're aiming maybe too high, or we've set the precedent for ourselves too high. I definitely did that around that time of 27. I felt I wasn't earning enough money, I wasn't high enough up the ladder,
Mm.
I hadn't got a house, all these things, which made me miss the natural wonders of what was
Yeah.
happening in my life.
Yeah, we totally miss that sometimes, the nature around us because we're too busy all the time, isn't it? God.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. So we make that time. How do we make time? Well, conversation for another time, maybe.
Yeah. God, yeah, a million dollar question, isn't it? Yeah. Actually, and I know you mentioned this quite a lot in the book, which is the male and female aspects of a person. And I was just wondering, what are they and how are they different?
Mm. Yeah, so we all have the ability to tap in So when I talk about tapping in, I mean connect with the male aspect of ourselves and the female aspect. Now, the simplest way to describe it is male representing structure and female representing, in my teaching, I talk about it as allowing. So allowing the this ebb and flow of life to unfurl, but we need structure in order for us to, well, to progress, process, and obviously, you know, make our day move, and have purpose. For me, when I realized they were out of balance was when I was working full time, as I told you. I was very much driven by what I'm understanding now as quite patriarchal, some matriarchal, out of date guidance from what I'd learned from my conditioning and my upbringing and teachers and society. And, you know, I thought I had to work hard, play hard. I thought I had to get more money to get a bigger house. I did eventually buy myself a flat. I loved it. But then I was like, well, when am I going to get the next thing?
Yeah.
And I was, yeah. And I'm not saying that doesn't serve a purpose, but it was distracting. And, you know, I think I talk about this, the dichotomy, the struggle of these two voices within you. So a lot of the time when my clients come to me, they're like, well, yeah, I want to allow the creativity to flow, but then I just keep hearing, but I've got to do things. And we have this internal struggle. And I actually think, for me, it was just allowing each part of myself, the male and the female, to talk to each other and kind of give each other a bit of respect and space.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I wanted to ask, because it's tricky, is it? Because, like, obviously, you can say gender roles are obviously a social construct. So is there such thing as a masculine and feminine side?
Ooh, yay. Love it. Yeah. So let's turn it to feeling. And this is what I do a lot in my work. Let's turn it to feeling. And yeah, it's a feeling of, oh, I love this. It's a feeling of natural balance, feeling of love, being able to be loved with respect again, and completeness. It kind of comes back to the teachings of yoga as well, and wholeness, and
yin and yang,
the yin and the yang. And yeah, there's a definite blow the illusion question. That, thank you so much for taking it down that far.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, because I was just like, I was like, yeah, patriarchal structures. I was like, I guess gender roles would be considered that, isn't it?
Yeah. And it kind of expands. So when we start to have conversations like this, it starts to create, you know, maybe small shifts, or for some of the listeners, this might be kind of blowing their mind and creating bigger shifts, because, you know, also I am a female. A female is also a label. My name is a label, but I learned through, I did some time studying neuro-linguistic programming, and I learned that, you know, yes, it's my name, but I'm more than that. If I describe myself, that's when I started to talk about myself being a light, because people are naturally attracted to me. People want to sit and hang with me and talk with me, and they kind of glow when they leave me. So I love it. Yeah, you can start to ease away from the labels and the structures, as you say. And, life becomes then more fluid, and we can, whether we still want to associate with, the gender, male, female, masculine, feminine, what I think it does, when it gives us a bigger appreciation for people who, are gender fluid, and the evolution of time and humanity.
Yeah, no, definitely. It is evolution, isn't it? Things are changing, thankfully. And actually, I was going to ask because I'm not sure. Do you know, like the Myers-Briggs test? Where basically, I discovered I'm an INFJ, which is like intuitive, but the thing is, I like really struggle to trust my intuition. So, like, how do I trust my gut instincts and like stop giving the benefit of the doubt to everyone?
Yeah. Well, take a moment now. Close your eyes. Yeah, take a moment and close your eyes. And then and everyone else can do this as well. If you're questioning your intuition, if you think it is something that only some people have the ability to tap into, and I'll just be quiet for 15 seconds and just see what comes up. And whether you can hear in those 15 seconds, whether you can hear this inner voice. And as I said, the soul I see it as your inner guidance system. Intuition being very, very closely connected to that. Now, without our gut instinct, and I'm sure most people have had a scenario in their life where their gut has actually protected them. And the gut instinct, my gut is actually, it's just gurgling there saying, yes, that's right. That it protects us. So we could look at it in the sense that the intuition through hundreds of years has been shut down almost, as a tool, as potentially, another sense. And I do believe, and I know through all the people that I'm now starting to, connect with, communicate with, work with, we trusting that the intuition is there, as I said, as that tool to help us in life making decisions, to help us, guide our children, and educate them, teach them, parent them, as you said, in a new way, in this evolutionary way. As you get deeper into your intuition and trusting it, for me now, I get shivers when I feel that when we're talking and something is very right for you, right for your soul's purpose, I get a shiver, and I feel that this is a connection with source or with myself, that deep knowing. So how can you trust more? Okay, you trust more by loving yourself more. And yeah, I'm just going to get a bit of an intuitive message here, but there is something. I want you to put your hand on your heart, and I want you to actually really, really believe in yourself more. And perhaps if your intuition guides you, you could write about it,
Yeah. Like, I feel like, oh, sorry, Natalie, I was just saying, like, when I had my eyes closed for those 15 seconds, I realized just how busy my brain was. And it just kind of blocks any kind of signal in that way, isn't it? Because we are so busy all the time.
Yeah. And it is a signal. It is a signal. And this is, what I talk about, cleanse, cleanse, clear, repeat. We're through these practices, self-love practices, or however, we connect with ourselves and others, is, it is a cleansing, it's cathartic, and it releases. So again, maybe there's something that you and maybe the listeners are resonating with this as well, that you need to release to clear part of a block. And then you'll trust your intuition more. Maybe it'll only be a tiny bit more. Maybe like some people, when I talk to them about this topic, that they say, whoa, life just totally and utterly changed. Sometimes it can switch on too quickly, and it can be a little, it can kind of feel like a flooding, and it's be a bit too much. I'm helping a friend out right now because this is happening to her. So I'm just staying in tune with her, and making sure that it's coming at the right speed. But you can ask it to slow down. What I'm referring to as it there is the intuitive messages. Some people have guides, they work with angels. I think, again, going back to what we were chatting about at the beginning, it's what works for you. So I talk about the unconventional approach. If we don't belong to ourselves, and when we leave this world, we go back to being those atoms, that speck that you said at the beginning. We have to allow more trust and more ebb and flow in, letting go of what we can't control, and trust.
And I remember you mentioning trust and truth, isn't it? And I was just like, what makes something cosmic and what makes something just the truth?
I'm just laughing because this word cosmic is coming up so much right now. And that word came to me 3 years ago when I was sitting at a bar on a holiday in Bali. And the difference... In answer to that question, I feel that truth is in the center of us. We know. So an example would be sitting with a friend, having a tea. They're saying something, it doesn't resonate with the values, your values. That's your truth. That's the truth inside. Maybe you can't speak it out because it's difficult, or you don't want to cause conflict. Again, this could come back to Myers-Briggs kind of personality traits. It's like that, if you're a people pleaser, there's no way you're going to challenge that friend and speak your truth. Cosmic, I'm seeing now much more as, as a source for us to, a tool again for us to start to call in. The cosmos is obviously, infinite. It's an infinite supply of wonder, for sure, learning, and for us to be able to expand our minds, coming back into this concept of soul purpose and soul growth. So one's external and one's internal.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. It's like, I was wondering what the difference was, but I was like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And what about for you? What's the next step for you in this journey?
Okay. Well, I got a journal prompt from Nicola Humber, who's the publisher of the book. And let me just find it, because I want to read it out exactly, because it's really very beautiful. I've written it down. I'm kind of sitting with it. And it says, how might my book be the foundation for financial abundance in my life? So this is the next stage for me, is letting go of the book. It's been 12 months, sorry, in 12 years, definitely in the lessons and the research in my life, but 12 months in the writing and the making, and now obviously it being in my hands. So it is about really letting go and letting the book go out into the world and just start making conversations like this with people, wonderful people like you, and yeah, start to really carve that path for speaking my truth.
Nice. That's good. That's a
Mhm.
good step forward
Yeah.
from the book. Yeah, and I
Mhm.
agree. These conversations are so useful sometimes just to even clear your own thoughts, I think. Especially for me, like when I have these conversations, it's just like, ah, yes, that now makes sense. So yeah, and again, so Natalie, I really appreciate you speaking with me today. It's been really enlightening, I would say. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank
Any
you.
last words for yourself?
For myself,
Or maybe for the listeners as well?
for the listeners, yeah. For myself, believe, and keep showing up. Keep being bold enough to take that extra step to be seen and to be heard, because your story is yours, and a story shared is, well, we've been doing it for centuries and centuries. It teaches us all, it guides us all to evolve.
Mm.
So yeah, keeping having that confidence that you can be seen and heard.
Hmm. Amazing. Thank you, Natalie. I really appreciate it.